Good morning and welcome to all our attendees. Thank you for joining and thank you for taking the time out. So I think let's start off with the tips regarding COVID. Guys, as we know, the numbers are once again climbing through the roof. So just a quick reminder about what to do to obviously try and protect yourself and others. Always wear a mask when you're out in public. Wash your hands with soap and alcohol-based or an alcohol-based hand sanitizer. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth with unwashed hands. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. Cover your cough or sneeze with a flexed elbow or a tissue and then throw it in the bin. And clean and disinfect frequently used surfaces. So please, guys, just as I say, just a reminder that we are now moving into a problem again. So please just remember that. Then just information regarding the Plumbing Industry Awards, which is being held on the 28th of July at the Royal Elephant Hotel in Centurion. And I do recall there was some circulation out on nominations for Plumber of the Year, Manufacturer and Distributor. So please assist us with that and nominate people that you think are worthy of this. So the next thing I want to do is just to welcome Steve and Richard. Steve, Richard, you want to...
Good morning, everyone.
Yeah, thanks, Gerrie. Good morning. First time I've been welcomed in a long time.
Yeah, Richard, you've just, because you stayed awake all night, because you can't wake up in Cape Town.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, welcome to a new day.
All right, guys. So our main purpose of this morning is a Q&A session where we are going to allow the audience to ask questions that's been sitting in the back of their minds. We've got a couple of things put together here just for information. But please, if you have any questions, type your questions in. Let's see what we can do to resolve or try and resolve those issues. Maybe there's a bit of information that can assist you going along the way. Steve, anything from your side? Richard?
Yeah, I think, we keep harping on geezers and non-compliance and everything else, but I think the key component is creating that awareness. Last night, I received a WhatsApp message from a plumber in Gauteng, and just, very positive about the non-compliance and how he's using that, one, to get the installation compliant, to create the awareness to the consumer. And, he's just saying that the detail that he puts into it and the explanations that he puts there, if it's not covered by the insurer, then obviously giving the client or the consumer the informed decision in terms of rectification. So I think that, there's many of the guys out there that are using it, and it's not about the bottom line, but yes, it is going to affect the bottom line in a positive nature. So I think it's just about the attitude and understanding of what the requirements are. And from an auditing side of things, and I think Richard and Gerrie, we all see it, is that, sometimes the lack of that detail comes back to bite the plumber, where he's now got to go back and advise the consumer that he's forgotten this or whatever. So it's just getting into the detail, whether it be heat pump, solar, or a conventional geyser that's going in. And it's just applying those principles of the standards. I had a call where I went down to a block of flats in the Manzimtoti over on Monday. And the plumber, again, being very proactive, had brought it to the attention of the body corporate that there was issues of non-compliance. And the insurers were saying that, they don't cover it, but then, they would possibly endorse policies if the rectifications are not being done. So I spent a couple of hours down there, possibly 50 units or so. And there's a lot of work. And in some cases, because of the design of the building, it's high near impossible to actually get the installations to comply due to the design. But, again, it's that communication, it's that conversation that's coming through from a plumber being proactive and bringing it to their attention. So, there's work going to come out of this one way or another. And I think it's just for us to just get into the detail and advise the consumer in the correct way. We're the professionals. And it's up to us to advise them. As the client said to me on Tuesday, this has been like this for 10 years. Why now? But it's because somebody's been proactive, and obviously the plumber was sort of challenged, and he said, well, get hold of IOPSA, let them come down and have a chat and a site meeting and go through and explain. So again, that's been positive and proactive, Gerrie.
Yeah, if I can also just chip in there, I also had a recent sort of interaction with a plumber that had been contracted or asked to do a couple of maintenance jobs at a particular complex out in the what we call the deep south here in Cape Town. It's out in Gordons Bay. And he had only started doing work there, sort of geyser replacements, etc., about 3 years ago. And he had immediately, three years ago, started to, every time he did a geyser replacement, sort of said to the owner, hey, you know, this is problematic. We can't get the overflows out. And this is so, and issued notices of non-compliance every single time he did a geyser. And eventually the body corporate got wind of this and started asking questions and saying, hey, what's happening? Talk to us, etc. And 3 years down the line, after having done, I don't know, 24 geyser replacements there, the body corporate asked him to quote on a solution, which he roped us in with. And it turned out to be the solution was running cast iron waste lines or sewer pipe, for want of a better reason, on the outside of the building, teeing off and then giving a ton dish for each floor for multiple blocks. We're talking hundreds of units, and this was something to the tune of 1.5 million rand. To the rectification, in other words, the upgrading of these overflows, and that's 100% due to the fact that he had issued non-compliances and stuck to his guns. So there's another example.
Yeah, and I think it's good in that way. I mean, this building that I was in would possibly have to go the same way. They've got two ducts, one where the geyser is, and obviously, and the two that I checked, I mean, there must be 8 90-degree bends on the TP discharge, going below floor level, rising up, and then going into a PVC stack. You know, that's basically been practically puttied in, and the expansion relief, you know, is in another duct where the main water supply is. So there's a huge amount of work that would have to be done in order to rectify it. And in this case, it would possibly be an engineer that needs to go in and have a look at the design. But again, it's just what comes out of being proactive, what comes out of advising the consumer of the standards and those requirements. And it's getting serious. I think with the insurers also backing it, obviously they have the liability of resultant damage, et cetera. So it's within their interest. So it's a collective, from the plumbers to the insurers to the body corporates and the consumers, all getting together to find a solution, which is really great.
Yeah, Steve, and you know, I've also had some positive things happening on my side. You might recall I did a whole huge report about 2 years ago on a fairly new development where they have, when the geysers start popping, they use those refurbished, recycled geysers. And I got a message the other day that they, in the meantime, have now replaced those geysers with new geysers. So, you know, although sometimes it feels like we're climbing a mountain, it does have an impact, and you know, people are starting to become more aware, and specifically the insurance companies are now getting more and more particular regarding these things. So yes, definitely a positive thing from our side.
Yeah, and I think, like I said before, is, you know, we keep delving into geysers because they become our most problematic, you know, right from the get-go, you know, before the design and the planning that goes into it. And I think the key thing is the plumbers to be involved to make sure that those non-compliances, if there is any, and there shouldn't be in a new build, but is to be able to communicate and communicate based on facts, not on hearsay, not on what this one said or whatever, is to be able to come in and say, well, there's the standard, this is what's required, this doesn't meet it, how do we deal with it, how do we now move forward with this? And there's a lot of blocks that are going up that we see there where there's non-compliance in terms of a new build, for example, and the responsible person or the competent person or the architect or whatever haven't followed that due process, and we're the professionals. And I think the key thing for me is it's really good when the plumber actually has a copy of his standards and he makes the client aware, the consumer aware of it, and he backs it up with fact. And if the client still disputes it, then you have an organization like IOPSA that you can come to, and they can get involved and explain, and it just elevates you from the guy who doesn't. And that's why we keep saying standards are critical to us in terms of how we do plumbing.
Yeah, Steve,
Yes, okay.
I think...
Sorry, Steve. Sorry, Richard, carry on.
Thanks, Gerrie. Sorry. I think just to reiterate what you said, You know, we recently had a case where the plumber had plumbed exactly according to both the architect and the engineer's design of a block of flats, a multiple unit block of flats, or number of blocks, and in so doing had created a number of non-compliances, brand new construction project. But the important thing to remember is that the plumber pretty much did what he was going to do anyway. He wasn't going to change anybody's mind. But I think if there was a conversation had been started right at the beginning, to just from the plumber's side, to say, hey, Mr. Developer, hey, Mr. Engineer, you know, you're asking me to sign a certificate of compliance, and which I will do, but that certificate of compliance is going to include a written notice of non-compliance detailing what you've asked me to do here, which is non-compliant. It goes against the standards. That would have alleviated a hell of a lot of anguish later on in the process, because at the end of the day, the block of flats stands. It's non-compliant. The plumber hasn't really done anything wrong, but nobody's aware of anything. And if the plumber comes along now and says, "Oh, by the way, this whole design is wrong, and that whole design is wrong," it causes all kinds of, you know, after the fact, it causes all kinds of arguments and so on. So I think the timing is important, and the fact that just because you are plumbing to a design that an architect or an engineer has given you, it doesn't mean to say that the thing is right. Yeah. You still have to apply your mind to the standards and compare what you're doing to the standards. So just because it's an engineer's design, it doesn't give you carte blanche to put in a geyser upside down.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing, is that when you are following that design, is to obviously have that communication from the get-go. And that's what I'm going back to and saying, that when you get a set of drawings or there's a detail that's incorrect, is to bring it to the attention of professional team. We've had many instances where the guys have brought it to our attention, and we've actually gone. I mean, Brendan's had chats with Brendan Reynolds, our executive director, where we've had meetings, with the developers, and it's only through that communication have they realized that, geez, they are wrong, or this detail needs to change. So again, it's just that communication. Sweeping it under the carpet's not going to do our industry any good. In terms of plumbing according to standards. So again, it's voicing your opinion, not an opinion, but voicing the facts and bringing it to the attention of the professional team, and then moving forward in that way, and detailing who that competent person was and what the design was that followed. And it does alleviate a lot of stress and aggravation that comes out of it. I mean, how do you rectify a block of flats, that's up and standing? You can't destroy it. So communication is the key, and understanding the standards. Thanks, Richard. Sorry, Gerrie, I get vibey when it comes to these type of things, but anyway, carry on.
Yeah, I think we all do, and so we're taking over the whole show by discussing things but I think it's important. So I think let's go move to the next thing. Just a little bit of feedback regarding the SABS issue SANS 10254. Unfortunately, it also impacts SANS 10106 and 1352, which is heat pump. So just a little bit of a feedback where we are sitting with that now. The public comment stage is now closed. It was closed on the 19th of April. And according to our information that we've received, there was over 300 comments. So yeah, that's quite a heap, and apparently it is one of, or most probably, as far as we could determine, the biggest public comment amount of people commenting on any of the SANS codes that was ever out for public comment. So there's a huge impact, and thank you for those that did participate in that. I think it's important to us to show them, what is the opinion of the people in general out there. So at this point in time, the next phase now is they need to work through all of those comments. They will then reply to everybody that did comment, and then the committee will sit down and they will have a discussion regarding these things. And yeah, so we are awaiting that. It will most probably take a couple of months. If we look at the amount of comments that was actually noted. So we're not sure when this is going to happen, or when we are going to get a conclusion regarding that. So there's a couple of meetings to be held with the technical committee for this. So, thumb sucking here. I would say at least 2 to 3 months from now. And that's basically where we are with that. So if you do get questions out there, that's where we are. And we will obviously pass on information as we get it. Steve, I don't know if you want to just have a quick chat about the impact of the floods in KZN regarding our industry, plumbing in general there.
Yeah, so I think, we've gone through a torrid time. It's nearly a month now. And there was a couple of things that raised from a plumbing point of view. So, I mean, everybody, knows about the floods, but I think the key impact that we had, Brendan Reynolds spoke about opportunities in the beginning of the year, looking at 2022. And I'll never forget him saying that, this year is one of those years that you just don't know what to expect. We've had COVID, we've had riots, we've had all types of things, and then we get the flood. But I think from the plumbing point of view, is that most of the water supplies into KZN were impacted. So we've had many of the aqueducts that have been washed away. I think we got water back yesterday at full pressure. We'll be getting water for about an hour a day. And again, one of those points that Brendan raised was rainwater harvesting. It's an opportunity for every plumber out there to be able to get that message across to the consumer. And I've got to be honest and say that I was one of those guys that's, I've never had a water tank here. I don't need one. We've never been impacted. We've had a couple of places where water's been gone. But when you don't have water for 3 weeks, so we got a JoJo tank and we've got it up and running. We've connected it to the rainwater. Please don't come and have a look at it. It was one of those flash jobs. We're busy sorting it out now. But in essence, it was, we got 1,500 liters of water here. But I go 1 day, 2 days, 3 days without water is you can live with. But when it gets to 3 weeks and you're pumping from swimming pools into the tanks, so we've had all the rain has gone and a little bit of rain here. And in purchasing water, I mean, within a day, most of the shops had no water. It was really challenging for people. I mean, just, in terms of general, there's still people that are going up in the Tongaat areas and up north that have got no water. So for me, is from a plumbing point of view anyway, one, if there's no water, there's no leaks, there's no geysers popping, there's no nothing during that period of time. Obviously, now that they're getting the mains back on, that maintenance work is now going to come through. We're going to have sediment and we're going to have all types of things that are coming through. So it's a yin and a yang. But the key thing is that having that storage of water, being able to shower, being able to at least wash some of the dishes, boil some of the water, everything else. So for me, having put the tank in and the pump and getting the pressure and diverting pipe work, I think is something that should be on the minds of all plumbers, in terms of what we've had here. And it's not to say that we would like to have it somewhere else, but to at least have that preparation. It doesn't take too long with 4 people in a house and no water for it to become very unsanitary and unhygienic. So, if you got a pool, it's great, but you got to pump that water. So I had to go and buy a pump, a submersible pump to pump into the one tank and everything else. So, coming from firsthand experience, and then also trying to get tanks. I remember phoning Bruce at Build, no tanks, and I phoned Manny at Builders, there was no tanks. So it was just a deluge of people that were now putting tanks in. I remember Tolani phoning me, where can you get tanks from? So I think in terms of the plumbing anyway, is that I believe every house should have one. It's one of those things that's a non-negotiable. Be able to get it installed correctly, make sure that you catch water. You can still use it for your grass and everything else, but don't be caught with your pants down when you don't have one. So in terms of that impact, and then just to say, we've had some real heartbreaking stories that come through from plumbers and their staff within our plumbing industry. That have lost children and houses and everything else, everything that they've got from clothes. And I just want to say, from the plumbing industry point of view, how they've actually come together and contributed to the fund. We've actually got the relief fund that was raised up again, and we started distributing clothes. And if you can imagine losing everything that you've got in your house. So we've started that. We've got a meeting today just in terms of the finalization that the relief fund closed on Friday, so we'll start doing the distribution to those that have been affected and brought it to our attention. So it's really, from the plumbing industry point of view, is standing up and contributing, and it really is heartwarming to see how everybody's just come to the party, not a party, but come to the to the fore and assisting those that are in need. And we can't, just express how thankful we are to the plumbing industry for the contributions. That's it, Gerrie.
Now, Steve, I think also I just want to thank those that did contribute. I've seen some pledges of 10,000 Rand, even in some instances more. So I think, in the end, the support that we get from our plumbers internally, supporting other guys that's got a problem, once again shows. And yeah, thank you for all of those that did make a contribution. We really appreciate that.
Yeah, it was really good. The plumbers and the manufacturer have come to the fore. When you start seeing the impact, Scott delivered some stuff to a chap that had lost everything, and it's just the lump in the throat when you see the face of the individual that's lost everything and there's hope. So we can't replace families and things, but we can basically ensure that there's a start and there's a fresh outpouring to help and guide. It's phenomenal.
Excellent. Karim, I don't know whether I don't see any questions on my side. Have you received any questions there?
Nothing on my side, Gerrie.
Okay, so yeah, guys, we had a lot of things to talk about. I really hope if you do have a question, please post your question. Let's see if we can address those issues, if there's any. In the meantime, we're just going to run through a presentation that I did not too long ago. Again, non-compliances. Just a reminder, only pre-existing non-compliances may be reported. No non-compliance notification on new builds and or alterations or additions. And then do not create a non-compliance followed by a non-compliance notice. I see there's one question there now, Karim.
Yes, the question is, to who can I talk regarding an insurance that is not requesting COCs?
Steve, can you jump in there?
Yeah, certainly. You can pop me an email or send me a WhatsApp. My number is 061-480-1485. Remember, gents and ladies, it's not a should be or whatever. It is a requirement. The standard has not changed. Okay, so if the insurer is stating that they don't need one or they don't want one, it's a non-negotiable, in terms of where it is until such time as the standard changes. And we've seen a couple of those. So yeah, it does become a bit of a challenge, but it is a requirement, and we'll gladly engage with them. Maybe they're doing it. I can't say that they don't know about it, because everybody knows about it. But yes, you can certainly get hold of me, send me a WhatsApp, give me a call, and so long as we have the proof that they are doing it. We get a lot of hearsay things, but it just needs to be backed up with the facts, and we'll certainly engage as to why they're not doing it, if that makes sense.
Thanks, Steve. Okay, so let's move on. Obligations and responsibility of the plumber. Number one, the obligations or the responsibilities of the owner is to ensure that his installation is installed and maintained according to the legislation. In other words, the SANS codes, which points back to the Water Services Act. As far as the plumber is concerned, it is to inform your responsibilities to inform the owner of pre-existing non-compliances. So the plumber has got no obligation to fix pre-existing non-compliances out of his own pocket. So once again, we need to point out the non-compliances to the owner and give them the opportunity to fix these things. And I think connected to that is that it's important that we do this non-compliance when we actually arrive on site. I always tell the guys, when you arrive on site, do not touch nothing. First, have a look at the installation, do an inspection, take photographs of the installation as it is, and notify the consumer immediately. So just regarding the purpose of that is to protect the consumer from potential dangers and underperformance that may result from non-compliant installations. And it is also there to indemnify the plumber or the installer against any future claims caused by failures of pre-existing non-compliance items. So once again, sure.
If you go to indemnify the plumber, and I think that's the one that we don't get is that, you know, if you don't issue the COC or you don't make the client aware of that non-compliance, the future repercussions to you, if you haven't covered yourself, could be astronomical. And we've all seen it, you know, where the plumber, let's say as an example, the geyser or the warranty is voided. The first person they go back to is you, the plumber, and they're going to ask you, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you notify me? And we always get that. I would have fixed it. You know, that's what they would say then. So we just need to make sure that we cover ourselves in terms of that. And again, the CPA, the Consumer Protection Act, says it must be in clear and plain English. You cannot take the rights away of an individual by talking plumber speak, if we want to call it that. So we just need to make sure that we cover ourselves and you walk away from there confident and they know what they've got and what the expectations are. And I think that's it. Richard, do you want to add to that?
No, I think that's pretty much it. You've put it in a nutshell. I was thinking of an example, and not an example that I saw recently. I've actually seen quite a few of them where a plumber has gone into a typical excuse me, sorry, I was just clearing my throat. A typical multi-dwelling sort of complex situation where they've got difficulty getting the overflows out. And with, you know, we all talk about ton dishes and this and that. And what I've found quite a few times is that plumbers, in fact, here in Cape Town, I don't know if it's Cape Town or if it's nationally, but in Cape Town there's a supplier of stainless steel ton dishes, the guys that are making very, very nice ton dishes out of stainless steel with pre-existing sort of holes to mount it up against a cupboard wall, for example, or a cupboard door, at least a cupboard side. But then the plumber goes and puts it in, which is fantastic, but then he hooks it up to the PVC drip tray overflow. Now, it's probably better than it was. So don't get me wrong, you're not doing anything wrong. But I just wanted to bring this up as an example whereby it's not a solution, 100% solution, because it's still non-compliant. You have improved the situation, but you haven't rectified it. That TP discharge, when it goes off, is still going to soften, or worst case scenario, maybe even melt the PVC pipe and rendering it useless. So even the point I'm trying to make, guys, is that there is often, we as human beings follow a narrative, and we hear things, you know, being chatted about at plumbing counters and on the street, and everybody says ton dish this and ton dish that, and all of a sudden we're on the bandwagon of ton dishes, and we think that as soon as we put in a ton dish, everything's hunky-dory. But we don't think beyond that. Where does the overflow of that ton dish go? Does it go to a stack? Does it go, is it PVC? Where does it, you know, these sorts of things. So in as much as we try and rectify a situation, just think it through, and there is probably still room for a non-compliance to be issued there. Yes, I've improved it. I've made a bad situation slightly better by means of showing the making the TP discharge as well as the PRV discharge visible, but I still haven't alleviated the problem of PVC pipes melting or bending or getting soft. So yeah, I just wanted to sort of bring that up as an example, just so that we remain vigilant and aware and think of things going forward, you know, and not just take things at face value and believe everything everybody says all the time.
Yeah, I've seen some where the guys have created a tongue dish in a flat, connected it to the waste pipe, and it's a holiday home, for example. And because it's not being charged and they switch the geyser off, when they get back into the unit, you can actually, the trap's dried out, and the smell that's coming through is just unbelievable. So again, it's just to look at the bigger picture in terms of where we are. Karim, I see there was a couple of questions from Lawrence.
Yes.
I think it was really insurance. I just want to open that up. Maybe we can have just a quick chat. I know we're running out of time. So he's got, Complex said that the insurance only pay 8,500 Rand. And I think we could go into the nitty-gritties with regards to geyser replacements and the rates that are covered. But I think most of the policies that I've seen, Lawrence, is that they've got a standard replacement, take out, put back with a PRV and a bucket of spares. But, it comes to, there is directives. I know in terms of upgrading of the pipework or whatever, you can get an upgrade going through. But again, also, they don't say that they are going to make the installation fully compliant. I think they're very clear in terms of that. There's still maybe a little bit of work that they need to do in terms of communication. And what I'd like to see is that, you know, when somebody lodges a claim, that they advise them that they're coming out, but there would be certain items that are maybe not covered under the policy, and it would be for their account. It makes it a little bit easier for the plumber to have that engagement with the consumer when they get there in terms of compliance. And again, Richard and Gerrie will tell you that non-compliance notice is a key critical one in terms of making them aware of it, and should they choose to spend it. But the what do you call it? The insurers will basically put you back in the same position, and they use that word betterment, you know, in terms of you know, putting you back in the same position. So it's up to the plumber to communicate that, Lawrence. But we can take that offline. You want to have a chat? More than welcome.
Thank you very much. I believe we've answered all the questions. Is there any ending remarks? Let's start off with you, Gerrie. Then we'll go to Steve and then Richard.
Yeah, guys, thank you once again for joining us. And yeah, listening to our chat, I think, you know, sometimes it's also important just to listen to some of the guys out there that's basically on a daily basis being exposed to these things. So thank you very much for participating. Yeah, let's keep on doing the right thing and the correct things to do to your own benefit as well as the benefit of the consumer. And thank you very much for that, Steve.
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us, Gerrie and Karim, and everybody for getting up early in the morning. Thank you.
Richard?
No, Gerrie, I'm also good. Just to, you know, again, reiterate, we've said it 1,000 times that the non-compliance notice actually does you a great favor. If you use it properly, you not only get yourself out of hot water, but you also potentially create more work for yourself going forward. So yeah, I think we've said it all more than once. Thanks, Gerrie.
Thank you, guys. Thanks, Karim. And yeah, stay safe. Once again, protect yourself regarding COVID and others around you. And thank you very much.